Welcome to the Warren Cycling Podcast. My name is Dean Warren. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia today.
And I'm Randy Warren, and I'm in Asheville, North Carolina.
Yeah, I got to do a trip since we last talked, which wasn't too long ago, and we were previewing a little bit the Il Lombardia or Tour of Lombardy. So I know Chris Horner says Lombardy the whole time, but he's consistent. He pronounces everything like the American way. He'll always say Matthew Van Der Poel instead of Matteo Van Der Poel. And we kind of try a little bit the European pronunciation. So I've been saying Il Lombardia mostly, but so I just got back for that trip. I haven't been able to go home yet to check out firsthand the assessment from hurricane damage from Milton. I do know my power is still off, so that made it an easier decision not to go home. But it looks like the house is okay, so it'll be all right. So I'll eventually get home. But yeah, I was really excited to get to still do this trip, that the hurricane didn't mess up my at least travel plans. And I flew to Milan, then took the train to Como. But I got to Como, and I had downloaded like a little bit of a map, but I guess they changed the finish because as I walked
flooding.
by the lake, there's flooding, like water was coming up, so they changed it. I didn't, I saw no really indication that there was a big race finishing in Como when I arrived at the train station. I just saw just the bustling tourist activity.
How big is Como? Is it?
It's pretty small, but it's pretty busy because it's a big tourist area. People like to get on the boat and go on Lake Como, and it's a nice town.
When we were in Nice, which is not a small city at all, but it was
a big city.
Tours can be there. The tour was like all over the place. But when we entered Grenoble back in '88, I remember there was no indication. Grenoble's a big city too. That the tour was. I had to research that out to find where the race is going to be.
Right. Yeah. Well, Tour Lombardia, the Tour of Lombardy, switches every year from Bergamo to finish in Como, Como back to Bergamo, and
different
routes. Of course, changes.
Too,
right? They changed the route around a little bit.
Yeah. This year, their first year, I understand they went where Remco Evenepoel crashed, but they went the opposite direction, I think, or
they went up it though. I think, they went up. Yeah. So. Right. But my hope was like I could get a nice picture of Tadej Pogačar winning, celebrating in his world.
Is that your picture behind you? Is that your picture?
Yeah, I got that. Yeah.
Nice shot.
So I gotta try to actually for the podcast today maybe cut away from us talking to post some pictures that I took from the race to put that in the video.
You could do it maybe during the interviews. You had interviews.
Yeah, right? I usually do that. I do that for the interviews of the riders. I put a picture of them. But I didn't interview Tadej Pogačar. It was just funny at the finish. Okay, I could tell. I mean, okay, first story. I wasn't sure where the race was at first, so I had to find it. But I found it. I was very. I got my package with the photo vest, which I was really happy about. It wasn't as many photographers at other races I've been to in the past few years, it seemed. So it wasn't too hard to get a good spot on the finish line. But I was there more. I don't know. 60, 70 kilometers perhaps to the end. But there was a big screen right behind the podium. I could watch the race, which normally I have a hard time following the race, but I could stand and just watch the race. And I don't know, Anthony McCrossan.
Yeah.
He was announcing along with like Italian announcers standing at the finish line.
That's nice.
Interspersing. And I think he understands Italian because he was making comments right after the Italian speaking in English, referring to what the person said in Italian. So it was interesting to see him. And I hadn't seen a picture of him before, and his voice didn't match what I had in my head of what he might look like.
Yeah.
So,
what he looked like? I don't think I've never seen him before.
He's not very tall. He's kind of bald-headed and looks a little maybe older than I thought. I didn't get so close to him, but
is he heavy or is he?
No, he's pretty fit. He's not real thin like Nibali is still in great shape. I got to shake his hand, say ciao to him. He was talking to a couple of people and they were saying hi, so I stuck out my hand. He shook my hand, said ciao to me too. So.
All right.
And then he I put a story when he was kind of helping Tadej get his trophy and everything to get off the podium, because I think it's got the circle trophy and like a stand And I think he was afraid he was going to like pull it apart, like if he grabbed on the top. So he's like helping him lift up the trophy. And so I had a little short video I put on a story on the Worn Cycling Podcast Instagram page, and then I tagged Nibali, and then he reposted the story on his Instagram feed. So
oh wow, that's good.
So I thought that was kind of fun. Yeah. So yeah, it was great to be able to watch the race and see when I was the first
as long
following
as you're watching
race.
Before 50K out, you're okay. Otherwise,
right. Well, no, even before though, when I first started following it, before I started watching it, when I saw the names in the breakaway, I thought, wow, this is some really top riders.
Exactly what we talked
really
about.
Good.
Exactly what we were saying in the last podcast.
Right. Well, that's what the only chance is to get ahead of, and make UAE burn up the riders before Tadej can get close to. I mean, I was like, wow, this is. I mean, they had kept it a good gap, but you had Jan Christian, and who else was pulling there for a long time in the peloton, and they still had Micah and Sivakov and Adam Yates, but wow, I thought, man, it's a little bit of a tough task if that group's working well together with the big hitters they had. So, but they kept the gap pretty good, and then it started to go out a little bit.
Yeah, when they got to that flag section in the middle, kind of the gap. I mean, all 12 guys were working really well together, and the announcers at least were saying that that even with UAE only having 2 guys, 3 guys, it was going to be impossible for them to maintain that gap. So I think they said they wanted to keep it down to 3.5 minutes, but it went up over a little over 4, didn't it?
It did. Well, the breakaway, actually, they were over 20, 22, 23 riders in the breakaway. And eventually they started, though, attacking each other a little bit, which disrupted the rhythm of the breakaway. And once they got to the main climb that was 50 kilometers to go, pretty much. It was 12, 13 kilometer climb, Sorna, some I don't know the climbs in that area at all. Just the Chiazza, the church one, which they have that. I have to go up there sometime because it has a museum in that church at the top of the climb. Saw Larry Warbasse posted a picture of him in the church and kind of laughing, but probably serious too, praying for a contract for next year. So but so I'm following and I'm seeing the breakaway getting caught, and actually at the moment I wasn't, when Teddy attacked, I wasn't sure that was the end of the breakaway, but quickly found out it was. So but Pavel Sivakov, man, some of these UAE riders have really stood out to help Tadej Pogačar launch his attacks, and really, I mean, the teamwork has been really good for them, and Sivakov just did incredible work and launched Tadej.
He did such work to bring that back and pull him up the first part of the climb, and then he still was in the second group for a long time too. And
he didn't blow himself up either. So
going for Shoni having that late attack, he would have in a sprint for third. So it was crazy.
So it's still kind of far out, but it was. I mean, Remco didn't respond at all, but he's got that great time telling ability.
Yeah. I mean, he chased, but it was he and I forget who else went with him, but it wasn't like he tried to follow him.
Enric Mas, and then Van Eltveld.
But Mas and Evenepoel went. I mean, there ended up being just the two of them after Tadej's first attack. They just had a huge gap. And then they had a small gap on chasers after that too. So they were clearly the next strongest guys. But I think Evenepoel knows not to try and match him. If he tries to go with him, he's not going to work out too. So it's interesting that two dominant riders. I mean, Evenepoel won both Olympic road race and time trial and the World Championship time trial. I mean, he's a dominant rider in some ways. Tadej is even more of a dominant rider in other ways too. And so they end up being 1 and 2 by themselves for the finish. It's emblematic of this day and age of cycling and who's the strongest guys, I think, right now in the field, but also very predictable and a little anticlimactic too.
Yes. I mean, after it got to a certain point, you didn't have to stare at the TV to see what was going to happen next.
Well, I watched the middle part, or watched the beginning, or actually part of it live, and then I went for a ride, and I came back, and then I knew I watched to see what happened because I knew this was a race that I wouldn't want to watch the whole thing. So I watched, before the attack, then I watched the attack, then I skipped ahead, then watched a little bit, and I skipped toward the finish and watched a little bit because it wasn't a lot of dynamic. I knew that Ciccone came at the end and got third place, and he wasn't in that group before, so I wanted to see that. That was the drama of the race towards the end.
Right.
So it was good to see a little bit of drama in this race, but it's a really super hard course too, as it should be for being a monument. I mean,
yeah.
You can't have an easy. Well, yeah. I mean, even the flatter courses are not easy for sure. But it's a really hard race. But then when you get to the point, and frequently in this race too, I mean, there's dynamics right at the very end. I mean, we've seen many times where the lead has changed or whittled down right at the very end, and then the winner emerged. But
yeah, there's that last climb that can play into it.
Yeah,
and then
and
then the descent and the finish.
Yeah, it's been dramatic before, but not today. This week, it was the domination it's incredible, really. I mean, it's awe-inspiring. It makes it less exciting, but it's awe-inspiring still that someone is that much stronger than all these other guys who are crazy fast, crazy strong, and he's just that much better.
Right. We don't ever talk about our doubts of riders that are extra strong, but there are enough people out there that still are skeptical and doubters.
Yeah.
I think we even had a comment on our not this last one, but the previous podcast about someone about the chemists are really, doing a good job now, and some needle icons. So for me, and I, both of us, we have, I think, a more positive and optimistic outlook, and until someone is proven to be cheating, I'm not going to be suspicious.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, I guess it's always good. We're not delusional either, so we know that it could be happening.
Sure, it could be. Yeah, and
but we're not going to.
They will be disappointed later, but I'd rather be excited and follow it, thinking. But maybe there's just a tiny bit in my head. And I thought, well, it happened before, but I think there was maybe more suspicions before. I think the one thing that I still like about Tadej is that he's just got a fun attitude about him. He's happy and enjoying, and he doesn't have this harshness, this edge to him like some other riders have had.
Lance was always vindictive from the beginning. Like, he always you're doubting me, and he'd get mad at people and he'd yell at people. He wasn't nice in the peloton. Because at first I remember when I had friends who would race with Lance, they'd be like, "Oh, he gets to race with Lance," and then be like, "Yeah, he's a jerk." No one liked racing with Lance. He wasn't like this guy who endeared himself to the peloton, and he endeared himself to certain parts of the population, but not to other parts too. He just had this, like you said, edge. He seemed defensive all the time, and we don't see that from Tadej at all. Tadej is fun-loving and gets along with everybody, and he's the kind of guy who, you really. I mean, I guess you wanted to cheer for Lance because of his cancer story, but
I think he did even with all that he did wrong, he still gave a lot of positive hope to people, cancer patients, and help them. And you can't take away that, even if it wasn't
but
authentic. But it did help. It helped them, so that's true.
Yeah, and Tadej's just way different.
Yeah, so I just wanted to make a small mention of how we don't address. I mean, we love the racing. We love to watch it, and if there's somebody that's doing so well, I mean, a generational talent. He's 25th win of this year. He's got 88 now. And it's just been just a dream from start to finish. I mean, the thing what so much about him is that, I mean, he has pared it down a little bit, but he's racing from the beginning. He's doing races. He's not a tour rider, but he's a really great one-day racer too, which, like Vingegaard is an awesome Grand Tour rider, and you don't see him doing so much of the one-day races. He won like an early season one day before, I think, when they had the gravel one in Spain, Jaén. So anyway, so we look forward to Tadej, okay, I know he wants to win and race other races. He hasn't won a Vuelta yet, so he's got that on his list. The Milan-San Remo is going to be a really tough one for him to get. Paris-Roubaix, he can bulk up some to do that. So it's kind of fun to be watching him, and I was really excited to be able to get some nice pictures of him at the finish. although I don't have the equipment that I wish I had, and I don't have as long a lens because he started celebrating way down around the corner. So it's okay. I want a long shot, so I wanted to switch and get some longer shots and closer up, but stopped just after the finish line. I told the guy, it was just one other little story. The other photographer next to me, I talked to just a little bit. I think everyone was Italian speaking, but there was one guy that was like controlling the photographers, like that they weren't too far out. I was like, this guy's it's one rider. He's got a 3-minute lead. I don't think we have to worry about crowding the finish line area. It's not going to be a problem. And then I said the guy probably is going to stop anyway at the finish line and lift his bike up over his head, which he did. And then he just gets past the podium, and he celebrates with some staff from the team, and then he goes back behind the podium. So he never even came past where the photographers were.
You got to cover the whole road. It wouldn't matter. Yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't going. So, but yeah, I mean, the rest of the riders, of course, were coming in faster. Evenepoel not as much because he had a sizable lead for second. But then after that, they zipped by. But in ones and twos, like just totally shattered race. So yeah, it shows how difficult it was. Maybe now it's good I got to talk to 3 of the Americans that raced, including an impressive 8th place by Neilson Powless, coming off his Grand Piemonte win a few days before.
Too. He was like really tight to get that sprint. I thought maybe he got beat, but he held on for the win of his group of like.
He even did a bike throw too.
Yeah,
he paid off. That. Yeah,
right. I know exactly. He just had a good race. He won last week, and then if he doesn't finish off his season very strongly, his season will be more of a disappointment because of his injury and not doing as well. But now you can really use this momentum and going to next year, and that's great.
Well, that leads right to what I talked to him about.
Oh, excellent. You sent me the interviews, but I didn't have a chance to hear them, so I'm sorry. I'm still dealing with the hurricane aftermath here. So
yeah,
let's hear what you had to say.
All right, with Neilson Powless, top 10 finish, 8th here at Il Lombardia. Great finish, but I don't know, it can't top your win the other day, right? Tell me about your win, Grand Piemonte. You got your trophy there. So awesome. You were excited, right?
Yeah, super excited. Piemonte was an awesome experience. 43K off the front was a pretty hefty toll, I think, and I was feeling it a little bit today, but luckily I was able to repair some damages in the last part of the course and come back and finish 8th, so I'm pretty proud of that, honestly. The competition level here was a bit higher, but in the end, I'm happy with how the week went.
Well, it's a great finish to a season maybe that you're not going to remember as fondly as other seasons, but it's a good springboard for next year, right?
Definitely, yeah. It does feel really good to finish the season strong. I've got one more race, Japan Cup, so one more opportunity there.
Right?
Yeah, one more opportunity there, but it's always a great feeling to finish the year strong.
All right, well, thanks, and enjoy.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So he's flying over to Japan with quite a group of riders that will finish off with the Japan Cup, which he won before. So,
which makes sense. I mean, again, he's flying right now. This is the best form he's had all year. He's just in a spot where he's want to push his momentum, and he obviously struggled. The interview I was reading afterwards, he was saying that it's been a harder year, it seems like, than it maybe appeared on the surface even, and his family supported him so much in this, and it's been trying for him because he's been on a trajectory where he's just been getting better and better every year, and then to have that short-circuited this year by an injury has to have been really mentally hard for him, and you can see he's not that seasoned of a veteran yet, that he's had these things happen before and can just say, well, I know I'll bounce back, I'll be fine, and the team has confidence and stuff too. I mean, I think that those things are present, but it's not in his DNA yet. And so having this happen and then have a strong finish helps him now, and then it'll help him in the future, the rest of his career too. But you might as well take advantage of the form, right?
Sure. And I think a former winner, they're going to want the winners to come back if they're still racing. Draws really big crowds there in Japan. It's the biggest race in Japan. And yeah, he's got some really good years still ahead of him, but he's really reaching that peak age where he's going to have his best performances in the next few years. So I talked to Kevin Vermaerke as well. He was up in the break, and he's had a strong year. So This is Kevin Vermaerke.
All right, with Kevin Vermaerke after the Il Lombardia in the break again today. That was a high-quality break you made it into today.
Yeah, we had the original break with had a teammate in there, and then on the second climb of the day, a pretty strong group went across, so I followed it, and I think it was a smart move to try and get up the road a bit and have a chance to try and get a bit of a head start in the final. Everyone knows what's going to happen if you just sit in the peloton, so yeah, not really in top shape anymore, but I think I just tried to give myself the best chance today.
Yeah, from what I've heard, it's one of the toughest Il Lombardias or races of any edition. I don't know what was your impression of the race today?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so where are you heading now?
To go find a beer and enjoy a vacation this week.
Yeah, do you like to go on vacations someplace new, or you got a favorite that you go back to?
Well, we're going around Italy this week, so it'll be new for me. So not on the bike will be nice.
Yeah, enjoy. Thanks.
And then finally, I tracked down Larry Warbasse, who's a fellow Michigander and Michigan native.
Good friend of the podcast.
I always like to talk to Larry. So, yeah, he echoed the sentiment of like Kevin and all the riders seemed just how hard the race was.
All right, Larry Warbasse, your name got called out of the finish line. Did you hear it?
No, I didn't hear it.
I got a nice picture of you too there.
Nice.
End of the season here for you, this Il Lombardia. Tell me about your reflection about the race today.
Oh my God, it was a really hard one. It's definitely the hardest Lombardia I've ever done. Probably one of the hardest classics I've done. I mean, it was full gas from start to finish, and I think you saw with the time gaps at the finish line, it was not an easy day. No,
the break that got out was a break I've never seen with such quality riders, so that probably made a factor too, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, yeah, I think everyone knew. I mean, it's going to be the Tadej show, so, now the anticipation is going in the early break, and it was super hard start, and it was a really strong break. Luckily we got a guy in there, and then, it was just full gas from there.
You get ever a chance to look around and see the beautiful scenery? I mean, this is got to be one of the more scenic places, right?
Yeah, it's beautiful here. I tried to look once or twice, but we were going pretty fast, so I wasn't looking too much around.
All right. Well, it looks like end of the season goodbyes. This team seems to be, I don't know, like a family in a way, because it seems like there's a really good atmosphere around the team. I mean, the season's been so highly successful, so it must have been a great to be a part of it this year, huh?
Yeah, it was really cool to be a part of it. It's a nice team.
All right, thanks, Larry.
Cool, yeah, no worries.
So yes, very hard race. The Tadej show, like we talked about already, the only way foreseeable it seems for teams to try to beat him is to get ahead of the race, and which makes the race even harder.
Oh yeah. And Larry's had a lot of commentary on how the peloton's racing to be able to try and deal with Tadej. So he's kind of blending into that announcer kind of commentator part of his career. Hopefully not yet, next year all the way. But he's done commentating stuff too. And I think the way he relates to the media and talks about things, I kind of see him almost. That's how he views things. So maybe he's doing that because he's preparing for a career as a commentator, or maybe this is the way he is, which makes him a good future commentator too, is because he kind of has more of a global perspective on things like, the effect that Tadej has on the sport.
Yeah, for sure. Well, overall, I was checking just because after Neilson Powless's win the other day, Grand Piemonte, that seemed like it was a really good year for all the U.S. cyclists racing in Europe. And from Pro Cycling Stats, I was looking at how many wins they've had, and they've had 12 Pro Tour, World Tour wins this year, all in Europe. And that's the most I could find in the last 25 years, probably ever, for U.S.-based U.S. riders racing in. I mean, Europe's where the heart of cycling is anyway. There were some years.
Yeah, in the late 80s with, Hamilton winning the Giro and Roy Nickman winning races and Ron Kiepel winning races.
But not that many in 1 year, one season.
Yeah. And
so,
plus it wasn't really a world tour then. It was different the way the races were ranked too. So.
And not just a couple riders, like then 2009, 2010, Tyler Farah was winning quite a lot as a sprinter. But big variety of riders this year besides. I mean, Sepp Kuss won, Brandon McNulty. He's got 8-9 wins this year.
Best year for sure. Yeah.
Matteo Jorgensen, Will Barta got a win, Luke Lamperti. So
Kevin Vermaerke deserved a win, but he didn't get a win. He rode so strongly all year long and was in such good support at DSM, and also so many breakaways, and just didn't have that breakthrough yet. But he had a great. So even the people who didn't get wins, we had some good American performances.
Right. And if Quinn Simmons keeps getting better again, maybe we'll get another strong year next year. So it always makes it exciting the whole year long to be able to, because we're still homeboys. We want to see the Americans do well. I'm always excited. So that was my, at the race, I said, okay, I want Tadej Pogačar to win solo so I can get nice pictures, or an American win. To win, because that would be the best case scenario.
It's good for us too. I mean, it's American cycling right now, and always, but if we don't have good people doing well on the big stage, it's really bad for our cycling, because our own race scene. I mean, there's lots of criterium still for sure, but the road races, not very many, and not very many high-profile road races, and not very many high-profile stage races. So if we're gonna develop cyclists, we need to have that inspirational story to see the racers doing well, I think, in Europe, to be able to inspire people. Because a lot of times the people who are ending up doing well in Europe are the ones that are going over to Europe as juniors or U23, certainly to race, even on the smaller teams, to be able to get that kind of experience, to be able to race in the World Tour level. Because if you're just racing in the United States, you're not going to get that.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, we've got still one more World Tour race. I sent you the pronunciation because I wanted to make sure we didn't.
I saw you sent it, but I didn't have a chance to read it.
Yeah. Guangxi. I think it's Tour Guangxi. It's in China, so it's a World Tour race in China. Tour Guangxi starting tomorrow, the 15th. I didn't say today's the 14th of October.
Yeah.
Torn Cycling Podcast 369. Yeah. So tomorrow, the 15th of October, starts the Tour Guangxi. I think the 20th is the Tokyo tour, or it's not in Tokyo, it's north of Tokyo. I was looking like, if I could get a Tokyo trip. No, I won't be able to go to Tokyo to see. But then I saw, looking at the calendar, there's some South America races. There's a Tour of Rio starting, like a 3-day Tour of Rio, November 1st, 2nd, 3rd. But it didn't look like there'd be any American teams racing there. But I thought, well, that'd be fun to see bike race in Rio. They had a great course for the Olympics, didn't they?
Oh yeah, it was. Yeah, well, I mean, it was. Yeah, I mean, the fact that Greg Van Avermaet won, it was like, you'd think it was more of a clamorous course, but the Classics rider won. So that can make it a great course, because if you can have it not, in the winner dictated by the course necessarily, is a great course.
Like Mara Abbott at Pure Climber was close to winning it for the women.
Close. Yeah, so close. Yeah.
So the women, so those ones that get away just hurt for a long time. We're not even the athlete that had it. The women have the Tour of Guangxi as well, I think, afterwards, and the Chongming, the tour as well. So some more races there. But they just finished the Simac Ladies Tour, and Laura Kopecky, she got the win there. So world champion, rainbow stripe curse, not so prevalent, it seems like, anymore. World champions are
this year already. Yeah, of course they usually say it's for the next year. So for this year, and apparently she won the final sprint, and so that gave her enough bonus seconds. So she beat Lorena Wiebes. It was just they're teammates, but still they seem like they sprint full on. They don't give each other the wins.
No, it's for SD Works.
Yeah. But that gave her the enough bonus seconds to win, because otherwise she would have lost. She only won by 2 seconds, over Koch. So it was,
Chrono des Nations.
Yeah, that's a very small fields for that race.
Yeah, but Grace Brown, who's retiring, who's had a phenomenal year, won. Yeah. So she goes out. I mean, it's difficult in sports to go out with a win and retire and think,
she said,
I'm winning. So, but she does that. Stefan Kung won on the men's side.
Yeah, he's scratching the door all year long, and get that win there. And then Jay Vine, who had a horrific crash earlier in the year, got second place too. So that's good.
Yeah, no, it's good for riders.
Guys racing each one though too. It's one of those pure time trial kind of things that it's a different kind of event. So.
Right. Well, that's pretty much wrapping up the road season with just some like the other races coming up that we talked about, not the big high profile races, but cyclocross season's already started. I haven't even really paid much attention yet, but that will start to shift our focus.
Isberg got DQ'd the other day.
Yeah, so. I saw like in a crash, he stomped on a guy's.
I didn't see it on video, but yeah. Yeah.
I mean, usually at this time already, we were excited because we had World Cup cyclocross races in the U.S., but
yeah, it took them away from us.
That's come and gone, so we don't have that to look forward to, which was always kind of weird too for the riders to have to be in such great shape, and different riders would come out hot and do well in the U.S.
Usually just gets this big lead though in the World Cup is by coming to America and getting these wins and getting all these big. So that him getting DQ'd the other day was a big blow for his normal early season onslaught, because you're right, it's a long. I think they were trying to compact the season a little bit more World Cup wise, and also too, it's sponsor driven too. My understanding is there's some controversy in Europe about it, because even some of the European races that think they should be in the World Cup aren't getting it because sponsors are kind of controlling a little bit. So thank goodness we have sponsors. Period.
Yeah,
to be able to have racing, because we're a sponsor driven sport.
Right, for sure. All right, well, I think that's. I made a little outline today to try to keep us on track. We didn't go down too many rabbit holes. Yeah, we're. Thanks for watching us. We've got the birthday list that we'd like to pull up, and we didn't mention his name before we started talking, but because I was going through the tallies of the U.S. wins, and then of course there's some riders that had wins taken away from them. But one of those was pretty pivotal, I guess, too, in the whole getting getting Lance Armstrong's wins taken away from him. And the official record books is Floyd Landis. Floyd Landis turning 49, so it's his birthday today. So I guess Pro Cycling Stats are gonna. I don't know, his PCS career points. I guess they probably deduct the ones he was taken away from him, but it still puts him fifth on the list. Yeah,
but he doesn't have this.
But there's a.
Was it Perry Nice to Georgia to California? Perry Nice though, especially Thierry Dauphiné was second. So, but he still had. I mean, it's. The controversy aside, he was a very strong racer. It's kind of too bad in some ways, and he was delusional too in terms of his getting away with the Tour thing and all the big campaign he did against that too. So it kind of hurt him. But he was a good rider for sure. It's just too bad that people got swept up in this. But he was definitely a super strong rider.
Yeah, actually the best. Wow, of all the points, which it goes down pretty low through the first 29 riders celebrating their birthday today on the 14th of October. The highest place active rider is Bart Lemon. Bart Lemon, 29 today, the Visma Lease bike rider who came in to replace Sepp Kuss, the Tour de France roster, kind of a latecomer to the sport. And he's actually come on really strong and raced pretty well this year.
Yeah, I mean, it was questionable. I mean, coming in, Sepp couldn't race, obviously, and they're like, who's this Bart Lemon guy? Is he going to be able to even contribute? Of course, he's the way that Visma's, they're so stacked. There's no way he's not going to have a good rider too. But it was a bit of a gamble that he would ride well, and he rode great. He had a great tour.
Right. Well,
different, obviously in Sepp, but it was still a great road. Rode well.
The other Benjamin King, the Australian, I remember they were both on the same Trek Livestrong team. Ben King, the U.S. rider that won a couple stages at the Vuelta, and Benjamin King from Australia. It's Benjamin King's birthday today. The Australian.
Yeah.
We also have, for American riders, we like to find the Americans celebrating, wish them happy birthday and today. And
Bruce Whistle, he's 63.
He's close to your age.
I know. I'm trying to think. I don't think I've raced against him. So yeah, maybe he's not racing now as a Masters racer, but he had an early season career.
Cassandra Ramirez, happy birthday to her, as well as Kristen Kelsey. Samantha Reynolds, happy birthday to Samantha as well. And John Seaman. Well, I have a very good friend named John Seaman, but it's not the same John Seaman. He's also celebrating his 55th birthday today, as well as Beckham Drake, who's just 17. Beckham Drake.
Yeah.
All right. Well, also the 14th of October is a kind of a special celebration for us as Tigers fans, because it was 40 years ago today, the Detroit Tigers, who made the playoffs this year, and we were talking about them a little bit last time, that did much better than we expected, but they won the World Series back 40 years ago now, on the same day that you and I ran the Detroit Free Press Marathon. So that was always a great memory for me that day, October 14th. And so, yeah, we were both runners running 10Ks, 20Ks, marathons back actually before we became competitive cyclists.
Yeah, actually, too, it's interesting because I'm going to do a 5K race at my 40th class reunion also, too, at Hope College coming up in a week from this weekend. And I'm going to do a 5K.
Michigan.
Yeah, at Hope College, yeah. And so but so some friends wanted to run, and I said, oh, sure, I'll run with you, even though last time I ran, I blew up my ankle in Europe. And I just stepped on a nail as I'm cleaning up hurricane damage. So my foot is a little damaged, too. But my friends assured me we were going to go at a slow pace and maybe even walk a little bit. So I think I can do it. But yeah, it's funny that 40 years ago we were running relatively competitively age group wise. We're not, I guess we were open back then, but we were decent runners. We weren't. It's different now because now the average time of a marathon, like the Detroit Marathon, has got much bigger. I think it's like 15,000-20,000 people now. And when we did it, it was like 7,000. And back then, I think the average time was 3.5 hours, maybe something like that too. Was the average time? It was pretty good. Now the average time is like 5 or something like that. It's gotten crazy much slower. So yeah, it's a different sport.
Sure. All right. Well, thanks, Randy. Glad we could get another podcast in. I'll try to get home and see if my house is still in good shape, which I think it is, and hopefully your cleanup will continue on. We'll talk again soon.
Yep. Thanks, Dean.
All right. Bye now.
Bye now.